Now, in spite of the controversies, conflicts, indictments, and now pending trial, Prime Minister Netanyahu is still polling as the strongest candidate for Prime Minister. In fact, a recent Midgam poll shows that 45% of Israelis prefer Netanyahu to serve as Prime Minister, over 33% who prefer rival Benny Gantz. Well, here to discuss is strategic advisor, Yoram Dori, and Dr. Martin Sherman, the founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you both so much for being with us today.
Good to be with you.
Martin, I actually want to start with you. Why is Bibi polling so well?
Well, I think it's a combination of two things. First of all, it's the lack of credibility that the law enforcement has got, an increasing erosion in that credibility. And the second is a recognition of the incredible, or at least very great, accomplishments of Netanyahu. And I think those two things have kept Bibi high in the polls. I mean, you know, if the law enforcement agencies, and especially the judiciary, wanted to undermine their own credibility in the eyes of the public, you only have to look at the last decision of the High Court to allow the Heba Yazbak of the Joint List to run after she praised terrorists, and her whole party actually denies Israel as a nation state of the Jewish people, which is a clear violation of the letter and the spirit of the law and should bar them from participation. And the High Court constantly overrides that. When Arab lists show, I'm not saying we should strip Arab citizens of their vote, but the Arab parties that run are in clear contradiction of the law, and that is increasingly eroding the effect. And people can see what's going on here is a choreographed coup with the law as a prop, just as happened in the United States.
Yoram, what's your take on this choreographed coup?
In Israel, like all over the world, you are voting against. It's an emotional voting, not a rational voting. Here in Israel, a lot of people of the public, let's say 40–45%, as you showed to us, think they are a discriminated minority, although they are in power for the last 50 years. The last time that the Prime Minister was elected by the Labour Party was in 1984, and Barak for 1 year in 1990.
Well, Barak was elected and was ejected out of power, the shortest serving Prime Minister, and richly deserved so, because the vote for Netanyahu is extremely rational. Netanyahu has been a transformational leader, whether it's in politics, whether it's in diplomacy, whether it's economics, whether it's in security. You know, you can look in each of those fields. Israel today is above GDP per capita of Britain, France, and Japan, which have been unthinkable just a few years ago. He brought terror down to imperceptible levels.
I can tell you that it's despite Netanyahu, not because of Netanyahu.
Yeah, for 10 years, despite of it.
Yes.
No, really.
So can you explain a little bit more about this underdog
mentality? So what is happening in Gaza is because of
I will agree
because
with
of Netanyahu. He's a prime minister for the last 11 years.
I'm not an uncritical apologist for Netanyahu.
He's paying protection to the Hamas.
I agree with you, but I'm surprised that the criticism comes from the left. Because one area that I have, one of the two areas.
Why do you think that the left are not patriots?
Is Gaza. But that's not why they want.
Patriots no less than you.
That's got nothing to do. That's got nothing to do with why they want to displace him.
So I want to move on a little bit.
The trumped-up charges.
Well, so I want to move on a little bit because a lot of this stuff can come out in a debate, in a potential debate, which, as we've discussed, has not occurred in Israel between two prime minister candidates in over 2 decades. Why would Benny Gantz not debate Netanyahu when before he called for a debate
I think you have to ask Mr. Netanyahu, who for the last 10 years didn't want to go to a debate. Ask him. I was convinced by Mr. Netanyahu that a debate is bad for Israel.
Netanyahu convinced you that debate was bad for Israel?
Yes, that's what he said for the last 10 years. He escaped from every debate. He didn't want the debate because he was leading. Now he's an underdog. He wants a debate.
But in the last time he debated was actually against Shimon Peres, and he ended up winning that election. Why wouldn't he be serious about challenging for this debate?
Well, ask Mr. Sherman.
I think Netanyahu has got a good case.
Answer?
Sorry?
Quick answer, I'm sorry.
Because I think the question is why Gantz doesn't want it, and the answer is because he's not the sharpest pencil in the drawer. I think Netanyahu would maul him in a debate, and he knows it because Gantz has been apologizing for everything he said. Everything he says, something he needs a clarification of what he said.
Absolute final comments. We have to. I'm so sorry, but yes.
No, I said I was convinced by Mr. Netanyahu. He convinced me for the last 10 years that a debate is bad for the democracy of Israel, is bad for Israel. So I was convinced.
That's bad for guns, that's for sure.
In the meantime, Yoram, thank you so much, and Dr. Martin Sherman, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.